In this session, we're diving deep into getting started for iteration 2 and all subsequent iterations. Particularly, we're having a look at the plan step. So as we saw when we were looking at the discover step, there are two parts to getting started: discover followed by plan. Plan is where we start to work out how we're going to use the time for making progress effectively. So we make sure that we've prioritized all of the ideas from discover, that we've allocated the work to available resources, that we understand the acceptance criteria. In other words, we don't allow ourselves to get started on making progress unless we've agreed up front, what does good look like? Maybe it's the format, it might be the design, it might be the functionality, what it's got to achieve. But we understand what good looks like so that we would know what to review in making progress to make sure that it is deployable. Now, if we understand the acceptance criteria, which effectively is the level of quality we've got to achieve, then we can start to think about allocating the time to create and test those outputs, which of course has a link back into our prioritization, because we're trying to make sure that we don't overfill making progress. We don't want to run late. We want to deliver our iteration on time, because if we run late, we are not delivering what we promised, and we are threatening the achievement of return on investment, because we're not going live, we're not deploying when we said we would, so we're not going to start realizing the benefits when we said we would. So once we understand the work in a bit more detail in the plan step, we must double check that we're perhaps using maybe 2/3, no more, of the time for the must-have items, and that we're leaving time for the shoulds and the coulds, because if we are in danger of running late, then we'll jettison the could-haves, giving us that extra time. And if it's going really badly and the must-have items are far more difficult to achieve than we thought, then we'll jettison the should-haves as well. But that still means that we'll have the most essential elements of the change ready to deploy in realizing benefits. This is called a user story. It's a very common technique in Agile, but it's a great way of writing a requirement. So when you've got an idea in Discover, the items on here really give you a sort of check that you've got a good idea. First of all, it makes you walk in the shoes of the stakeholder who might be impacted by your requirement, by your change idea. So you're looking at it from their perspective. So you're thinking, what is it that they need? So you look at the community map and you think about the role that that stakeholder was playing and make sure that the requirement actually meets their needs. You then write what it is the requirement is, what is going to change, what is the thing that you're creating or amending. And to make sure that you can easily prioritize it, you tie it back to benefits so that you work out, what is it that's going to be good? Why do we need this thing? And of course, that can come from, as we've seen in the business need lesson, we can think about one single idea or the benefits dependency network. Both of those will give us sources of the the benefit. And finally, as we've already said, the acceptance criteria is really important before we get started on any work. So we'll make sure we capture that as well. Now, I'm just going to walk you through a very simple idea. This is about a report, but you can see how the 4 things that are on this user story fit together. So if I'm the supervisor of somebody perhaps who works part-time, maybe finishes sort of towards the end of the week when others are still working, the supervisor says, well, I need an end-of-week progress report from that resource. Why? What's the benefit? Well, making sure that the supervisor doesn't duplicate their work when they're not at work, that the supervisor knows what else to add to the list, so what's actually happened so far, what's going to happen next week, and that the supervisor is fully informed when they follow up with the stakeholders, so that they're maintaining their reputation for being in control of things and being up to date with information. You can see that I've put quite a few benefits in the so that column, because they're all genuine and they all show just how important something as simple as this end of week progress report actually is. And then before somebody writes the progress report, we agree up front, what is it that good looks like? So in this case, it's going to be an email written in bullet point format. Why? Bullet points are easy to read. And if it's a written record, then it's much easier to sort of have it there in front of you when you're cross-checking other work that needs to be done. So a very simple idea, but it does dive quite deeply into exactly what is going to be created. I'm a big fan of user stories because I think they give you a very simple structure, very easy to use, but it does leave you with a comprehensive result. And it makes it so much easier when you move into making progress and then into realizing benefits, how to actually do the work to create the right requirement. You can cross-check it against the acceptance criteria. And then in realizing benefits, you can look at the expected benefits and you can see whether or not it's delivering those. Now, we want to collate everything that's come out of the discover step. We need to have an understanding of all the work that's going to take part in making progress. So this is a prioritized requirements list, and it really does live up to its title. The requirements are on here, they're listed on here, and they are prioritized. I've put an M, an S, and a C to denote that the top one is a must-have item. In other words, it really does deliver important benefits, valuable benefits. The should have is also useful to have, and it will contribute to the benefits, but it's not essential. And the could have is something that we really would like to do. It might make things easier. It might make things look better. It might satisfy some of our stakeholders, but it's not really essential. So it's only a could have. And what happens is that, of course, the first piece of work that we're going to do would be to create the must have. Then we review the must have. This all takes place in making progress, and that review is against the predefined acceptance criteria, so we know what we should be looking for. And if it passes that review, then it's ready for deploy in the realizing benefits process. Very simple, but very effective. Now, what I want you to have a chance to do is to write your own user story, to define a requirement, thinking about those fields, thinking about the perspective of a stakeholder. So look at your community map to think about who it is that you're actually representing. Think about the benefits, maybe use the benefits dependency network to think up all the reasons why this would be a good thing to do. And think about the acceptance criteria so you can be absolutely clear, you know exactly how you would test or review what you've created.